What's going on, everybody? It's your boy KRYPTONIAN SAIYAN here, bringing you guys another review for Black Clover Chapter 346. And now that Chapter 346 is done in the books, we got a lot to unpack from the latest chapter because there was a lot set up here, even though this was an action-heavy chapter. It turns out that Ryuya is one handy-dandy ally that you want to have on your side because the timeline from the last few chapters is beginning to make a lot of sense right now, and it's because Tabata has made it further obvious how Ryuya's powers work in this chapter. We get the battle of the Ryuzen versus the five-headed dragon. We get Sister Lily talking super smug and talking super arrogant right now, and we got the Ryuzen ready to take things up to another level in their battle, but they can only do so until certain conditions are met. So with all that out the way, let's back things up a little bit and let's unpack everything that we got in the chapter in full. So the chapter opens up with the citizens all freaking out at the sight of the five-headed dragon, yet also having faith in the Ryuzen, and they're openly wondering, will the Shogun, Ryuya, and the mighty Ryuzen be okay in the face of such a legendary enemy? We then jump over to Kezokaku, who is making light of the attacks by dodging everything that is thrown at her with ease, which leads to a really funny scene where Ichika provides some comedic relief by also giving us some exposition on Kezokaku, because she says that when Kezokaku doesn't stay in her head overthinking every single little detail, she's actually a very formidable fighter, nothing less expected of one of the Ryuzen. Upon seeing this, Sister Lily pulls up and says like, hey, it's okay to be dodging all those attacks. However, the five-headed dragon, just dodging those attacks is not going to be enough, and is not really the smartest course of action, because the attacks that are being dodged are actually destroying the area itself, with the prime example being the mountain is destroyed nearby, and that's a good way to actually give us a gauge of power of what we're about to see displayed here. Just a casual attack was destroying a mountain like it's nothing. We're then treated to a flashback where Ichika recalls Ryuya telling them yesterday that the enemy is coming, because apparently Ryuya can see into the future half a day in advance, and he saw the Paladins coming and proceeded to lay out all the necessary information that Ichika and the Ryuzen will need, which also explains why we've jumped from Ryuya being like, oh, the enemy's here, what are we gonna do now, to Asta being shown training elsewhere. This flashback is also serving some much needed clarity right now, and I love that we're getting it here. Part of the information that Ryuya gives to Ichika is that the intruders are called Paladins. He gives them their names, he gives them their magic types, and he gives their objective for the coming battle here, which is the Paladins are going to be trying to release a five-headed dragon, and they're going to succeed in doing so. Ryuya on one hand asks the Paladins, do they think they can win a battle against such a mighty foe, to which they obviously say that they think they can. They are the strongest in this land, and they're coming together as a fighting force, basically the Avengers of the Land of Sun. But on the other hand, Ryuya lays out priorities for them as well. The enemy is strong, and the enemy will require their utmost attention, but their priority is the safety of the citizens, because a five-headed dragon is going to cause an enormous amount of destruction if left unchecked, which I like this little caveat being added to the battle, because while it does give us a chance to see the mighty Ryuzen in action and get a gauge of their power, it also gives a little bit of a handicap to them, because they have to worry about the citizens as well. It, for the time, raises the stakes, and it does so in a way to where we as readers have a bit more investment heading into this fight due to how perilous the situation might become as a result. And it also gives us a chance to see why the citizens who were used as one of the opening panels in the chapter, why they were actually chosen for this, because their faith in the Ryuzen is going to be part of the battle itself, because the Ryuzen not only have to fight a mighty enemy, but they also have to keep the citizens safe while also exercising extreme control over their attacks, because say if they start using island busting attacks that they shoot off, they're going to have to contain that destruction to a limited space to prevent it from doing more harm to the surrounding area where there might be innocent people around. We're about to see true masters at work here, and I absolutely love what Tabata did to set this up. So we then see some of the Yojutsu of the Ryuzen. Daizemon uses Earth Yojutsu, Kezukaku uses Snow Magic, which is a reference to the foxes in Japanese folklore, which likely means the Snow Yojutsu is going to be something that has some type of trickery to it when fully unleashed. Then we get this great double spread where we see the Ryuzen in action, where we see attacks of lightning and wind being unleashed, but the best panel is easily the one where Ichika has transformed into her dark magic armor and is shown with the eyes filled with anger as she's looking forward. And in the next panel, the largest amount of space is given on this page to one of the heads of the dragon being cut off by her attack. And then we see Sister Lily just shocked by everything that she's seen, and the five-headed dragon being bullied, and Ichika shown in the last panel of the chapter looking down at the scene eyes narrowed with focus and making it clear that they can hand out the smoke to whoever wants some, but if you got asthma, don't blame her for what's about to happen. And Ichika, in short, is basically on demon time right now, and I'm super excited to see her cut loose in the next chapter, especially given that the chapter ends off with that amazing spread of her looking down at Sister Lily. Now, based off of this chapter, we can gather a few things as well. First and foremost, we can officially stop all those comparisons to the Guardians of the Heart Kingdom and the Ryuzen. The Ryuzen are clearly on a different level of power right now, and I love every bit of the display of power that we're seeing. Granted, this is standard shonen power cliffing at work here. This is not some like super complex thing. This is standard shonen power cliffing, but this is actually a really good narrative setup when you look at it. So the Guardians we saw emerge as a force to fight evil when we were dealing with the threat of the Dark Triad. Now, in the final sibling, Lucius, the rogue Wizard King, is the one that we're having to deal with. So by extension, his underlings, the Paladins, are going to be stronger than what we've seen before. And just as the Guardians were serving as a stepping stone for Asta and company to ascend to that next level, so too will be the Ryuzen, but this time it looks like the only one making that next step is going to be Asta, which makes sense. The final villain is the rogue Wizard King. Asta wants to be the Wizard King. So narratively, this makes sense. However, it makes you wonder, if all this is going on in the Land of Sun, what is happening back in the Clover Kingdom? Because the last time we saw the Magic Knights, Yami and Yuno, they look like they're ready to crack Lucius' head, and the Black Bulls were going out to try and find Asta. You gotta love the long-term booking at work right here, because whenever we get back to the Clover Kingdom, wow, it's about to pop off. So symbolically, I think Tabata showed off the Ryuzen properly here. You had the 5 Ryuzen gather, one head for each Ryuzen to show off their power before the main battle with the Paladins. This is what should happen narratively. It gives ample time for each of the Ryuzen to shine when they're fighting seriously, not when they're playing around with Asta in their training, before we potentially either get the Paladins being stomped out by the Ryuzen, or we see the Paladins break their foots off in the faces of the Ryuzen. You're set up for either outcome now that the power has been shown to us as readers. Narratively, it continues to make sense. These are the greatest fighting force assembled in the Land of Sun in the form of these 5 Ryuzen, and there's no need for a Gaijin, i.e. an outsider like Asta, taking out the 5-headed dragon, a threat that came from their homeland. It would dishonor the Ryuzen narratively if Asta showed up and took out that dragon. However, if Asta shows up to help fight off the Paladins, there's no dishonor at work here, because the Paladins are ultimately a threat from Asta's homeland, and they're ultimately his problem to deal with. The only thing here is, after all the hype of the dragon, is it being used to set up the Paladins going off in the next chapter, showing the difference in power, or is the dragon gonna be used as a method of revival? Personally, I think it's the former. The dragon, despite the demonology influence of it being Astaroth's dragon and the hype that we got surrounding it, it kind of feels like this is gonna be like the first devils we saw leave the Quillif. After all that hype about, oh, the devils can't come out the Quillif, we saw the first ones raise a little hell, and then they ultimately got defeated, which is basically what happened here in an abbreviated version with that 5-headed dragon. If this happens and the dragon is a distraction, I think based off of Ryuya asking all the Ryuzen if they can win, the 5 Ryuzen gathered here are going to be in for a struggle, and they're likely going to need to be at the full 7 in order to have a hope to win, but that might also include Asta narratively joining the fight, since the Paladins are a problem from his homeland to deal with. So my chapter question to you guys is, how do you think the upcoming battle involving the Ryuzen and the Paladins will go? Can the 5 of them win, or do they need all 7? Do you agree that since the Ryuzen dealt with the 5-headed dragon so easily that they're going to fall in this upcoming battle? While you think that over, click here to watch this Black Clover video, or click here to watch these other anime videos you see on the screen right now.